All right, you made it. Thanks for being here for my 5 simple ways to finish your renovation on time and on budget. Number 1, start with a plan. The way you finish your renovation all depends on the way you started, so start with a plan. When it comes to renovations and redesigns, the best quote to remember is this: "Those who fail to plan to fail." Now, before you roll your eyes and say, "Oh, brilliant tip, Christy, I could have told you that," ask yourself, do you have a plan? How do you even know what to include in that plan if you've never done a renovation before? And for those of you that have done a renovation before, but you didn't really have a great experience or result, what exactly will you do differently this time to ensure a better outcome? The plan is everything, because without it, not only will you not finish on time or on budget, but you will have a more stressful experience and you run the risk of ultimately not even being happy with the finished product. Number 2, start with a budget. I know everybody hates to talk about budgets. It really surprises me how many people don't start with a budget and do not want to talk about it. What I usually hear is something to the effect of, I don't even know how much stuff costs, so how could I possibly set a budget? Or, well, we don't want to spend too much, but we do want to get what we want, so we'll figure it out as we go and we'll know it when we get there. Well, guess what? Getting there is what happens when you're halfway through your project. You look at how much you've already spent and you have a holy crap moment where you have to start compromising, or worst of all, not finishing everything on your list. Part of the problem is how our industry approaches budgeting. It's far too often interchangeable with estimates and allowances, and those are 2 totally different monkeys in a barrel that we are not even going to get into right now. The way you've likely been approaching budgeting for your project is not detailed or accurate enough. And so it's incredibly frustrating because it's virtually impossible to get started right out the gate with a true number. In our step-by-step signature service for our clients, we don't even get to the budgeting portion until about a quarter of the way through the process. So we're doing all the designs, all the sourcing, all the tradesman research, everything right down to the last piece of piping on your pillows prior to developing the budget. This is the only way to A, start dealing with real accurate numbers, B, put you in control of how much you ultimately spend, and C, provide a realistic scope of work that can actually be completed on budget. So definitely put a budget into your master plan, but just change the way you've been thinking about it or what other people have tried to tell you about it, and instead reverse engineer it. Figure out your total and complete wish list, how much it realistically costs, and then work backwards from there to develop a real number you can count on. And you can do this. Well, you've made it to my costume change, which means you've made it to number 3. Don't start without a contract. Please, please, please do yourself a favor and do not start any work without a contract. And don't expect anyone you hire to start working without one. A lot of people have a negative reaction to the term contract. But in reality, a contract is a beautiful piece of communication that sets clearly defined expectations between both parties. Far too often in this industry, people are just working off of assumptions and unclear expectations. And assumptions always lead to misinterpretations, disagreements, frustration, and often the end of the working relationship. A contract eliminates situations of subjective interpretation, and it acts as a promise, a commitment by both parties to work together towards a common goal, completing your renovation on time and on budget. Demand that all your service providers have some form of contract in place. It is a mark of professionalism, and ultimately, it protects you and your project in the long run. Number 4, Don't start without a schedule. I will never forget. I was working with this new contractor, and he was one of those mover, shaker, get it done kind of guys, but not very organized. And he claimed that he could do a complete home remodel in 4 months. So I kept asking him for a written schedule of the work. I wanted to know, what is his plan? How is he going to make this miracle happen and get all of this work done in such a short amount of time? He never gave me a schedule, and me being as organized as I am, I couldn't take it anymore. I wrote up one for him, I gave it to him, I said, look, make any changes to this that you want, spell it out in the schedule, let's agree to it, commit to it, sign off on it, and be done. Well, naturally, he never wanted to sign it, and we started to move into the demo phase. He brought a huge crew. They got a massive amount of work done in a very short period of time, and he was like, see, I told you I work fast. I'm going to get it done. Well, cut to many months later, when every day I'm trying to track this guy down to get the electrician on site or get the framers back to finish up something that should have been done weeks ago, and I cannot get this guy to ever commit to any kind of a schedule and do what he says he's going to do when he says he's going to do it. It took him twice as long as he originally proclaimed, and he never even finished the job entirely. The moral of the story is this: a true professional is organized and starts with a schedule on all jobs, large and small. I know it's tempting to want to get started right away, or to want to believe that your whole home renovation can happen in 5 weeks like they do on TV. But don't get sold on unrealistic promises, and don't begin without a schedule in place. Number 5, set up weekly progress meetings. I'm a big believer in the weekly check-in because, after all, how can you know if you're on track if you don't know where you stand? Your progress meetings are going to look different depending on what type of project you're doing. So if you're working on a new home build, maybe you're meeting less frequently in the beginning. Or if you're towards the end of a room makeover, then maybe you're meeting every day of the last week to make sure that finishing touches are getting done properly. The most important thing is this: stick to some sort of regularly scheduled check-in and assess the progress of your project in terms of A, budget, B, schedule, and C, workmanship. When you are addressing these 3 areas on a consistent basis, it makes it so much easier to remedy mistakes and adapt to unforeseen changes, and of course, finish your project on time and on budget. So there you have it. These are 5 really simple and straightforward practices that are easy to understand, but they're not always so easy to implement. Part of the challenge is dealing with an industry where it's already generally known and accepted that projects go over time and over budget. But I believe that we can do better by demanding greater professionalism and integrity. I love renovation. I love being part of the positive transformation of someone's home. And I love you for being here, because whether you work with me in the future or you take away one concept from this video, together we are setting a higher standard of excellence for the renovation industry. And that means that more people get to have the experience of creating a custom home they love. And that's part of my core mission. So thank you for that. Don't forget to download the PDF below this video for some printables and guidelines that will help you implement these 5 simple ways to finish your renovation on time and on budget on your next project. I'm Christy B. Thanks so much for being part of the community, and here's to you ruling your renovation.